quite north. I grew up 200 miles west of here in Flint, Michigan. And I used to come down the 401 to Kitchener, to London, well, Waterloo, playing hockey. Always got the living daylights beat out of me, so thank you. Yesterday evening, we had kind of a voice acting centered panel. I believe today is going to be pretty much just Q&A. I love your compliment. Very good. And so I think, you know, I'm here for you guys, and I'm so grateful to be here on behalf of the folks at Kanji. I'm just so excited to get a chance to come to the Toronto/Guelph area. This is really lovely. I spent an awful lot of time in Toronto as a kid. I used to go to the Dave Keon Billy Harris Hockey School and in Etobicoke. And of course, being from Michigan, the Leafs are my second favorite team. But go Leafs, my favorite player when I was a kid was David Keon. Big Dave Keon fan, but most of you people don't know that because you were born then. So I think the best thing to do is, this is basically a Q&A. I would be happy to answer any and all questions I can with respect to characters I've been fortunate enough to work on, or characters you may like that other actors have worked on, because I know pretty much everybody in the cartoon business, especially voice actors. So we have a microphone right here in the center aisle, and if you would like, the best thing, sir, if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to go first if you like. Yeah. That way everybody can hear your question, and I'm happy to answer. What is your name?
My name is Zach, and
hi, Zach.
Before I say anything, just want to say I am a huge fan of your podcast, and my favorite episode was the Animaniacs music. It was like a concert, and listening to a concert on National Public Radio. It was so good.
Zach, first of all, I don't think you're that huge. You look very normal to me. Very handsome, Zach. No. People don't know this, but I actually paid Zach $100,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah, he paid me, so, no, I'm kidding.
Clearly, you are, thank you, my friend. That's very nice of you to say. Let me just say very quickly, what Zach is kind enough to refer to is I have a podcast that's available for
download on iTunes.
Download free on iTunes, or I have an app. If you have an Apple phone or an Apple device, I have a free app that is available in the App Store, the Paulsen app, and you get all my podcasts. And on that note, what Zach is referring to, the podcast is going to be streamed live in video starting Wednesday. So you'll be able to see the video cast.
Maybe try and get the line as close to the other side of this as possible.
But you go to Ustream.tv.
It's those guys who are more the
Just pass up.
Just pass up the message. Keep to the left. Just pass up the message.
Download so I can put it on DVD.
Yes, sir. After the fact, it will be available for download. So you can watch it either live this Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific time, which is 3:30 here. But you can also download it after the fact.
See, I'm a radio guy. I love to listen, and that's why I like voice acting, because first of all, it's so much more laid back.
Agreed.
And
I'm glad you got that, because that's exactly what you're trying to do, Zach. You're going to be very laissez-faire.
Yeah, and also, you don't have to have a big movie screen.
Yeah.
You can do direct-to-video. Like, one of my favorite direct-to-video specials is with me right now. I have the VHS of it.
VHS, that was just after.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint who's in it. Bill Farmer, you, Jason Marsden, Vicki Lewis.
Wait a minute. I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'll bet it's Goof Troop.
No, it's a movie.
Oh, it's a goofy movie. It's an extremely goofy.
Yes!
It's an extremely goofy movie.
That is better than the first one.
Too much. You're entirely too good to me.
Well, before
You have a question, though, right?
I got a question. I have two questions. You have inspired me to do a podcast of my own, which I want to interview people like you. I want to interview people like you and your friends and famous people in the media. Do you have any advice to somebody who's not started a podcast yet, but wants to start a podcast and give people in-depth interviews and on-demand audio like that?
That's a great question. And yes, you know, I was not too dissimilar from you a couple of years ago. I happen to work with a lot of people who, folks here have paid attention to. But my best advice would be to start with your personal friends, and start with maybe some folks in your neighborhood who are maybe local celebrities and that type of thing.
So being on iTunes too.
Well, yeah, or you can do anything to iTunes. You have to submit it. You have to go through the iTunes steps, which I'm not familiar with because my producer did that
DJ
for me.
Knight,
But
DJ
yeah, and you're way smarter than I am. But I would, because you need to kind of work on your not you, but all of us, we need to work on our interviewing skills because sometimes you're in front of the microphone or the camera and you kind of freeze up a little bit. You just have to get used to interviewing people.
Yeah.
And so I would start with friends, relatives, maybe local celebrities. Talk to your mayor. Talk to people. You know, if you go to church, maybe folks that are in your church, that kind of thing. Talk to people who your local friends and your local people would be interested in hearing from, and then you can branch out from there. If you want to specifically work on people who are in the entertainment business, then maybe you could work on you know, people you know who work on things for YouTube and developing a following and that sort of thing. But the best thing to do is to work on your interviewing skills initially.
Yeah.
Okay?
Test shows and all
Yeah,
that.
test shows.
Start small and then go big. Like Rome wasn't built in a day.
Well, it was built in about 2.5 weeks, actually. What's your next question?
Two more. Where does NARF come from?
NARF was, you know, honestly, it was written, it actually came from a guy named Eddie Fitzgerald, who's one of the animators. And trust me, you look at Eddie Fitzgerald and you think he looked like Mickey. And which is probably a good and an odd thing. But yeah, he used to say things when he would make a mistake. He'd say, "Oh, NARF." I don't know why, but luckily that came in some odd, you know, situation for him.
And may I suggest a guest for your show?
Please.
Kath Susie.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have her on. I love Kat. Sometimes it's just hard with scheduling issues, but yeah, she's a lovely woman and she's very talented. I will.
She's my favorite cartoon character.
Oh great. Well then
Sally Acorn.
I will tell her that you specifically requested that she's on,
Yeah.
and then I can say, hey, dude, it's Zach that wants it, so I have to say that.
Well, I love Sally. She's so good.
Well, thank you, buddy, and thank you for asking so many
But
questions.
I'll tell you one thing. You rock. You're the best, man.
Exactly.
I love you. Rob Paulsen, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done. Good for you, my friend. Hi. Nice to see you again.
I figure the songs are coming later, but since I know Nations of the World is probably more popular, I want to specifically request Yakko's Universe if we have time.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one that I can do a little bit of that. Go ahead.
Well, I'll segue into the one of the talking about Yakko's Universe. One of the most memorable moments of Animaniacs, other than the songs themselves, was for those of you who are like, Animaniacs, of course, was in the very early days of the internet, and generally like people out of college and stuff had internet access on slow modems and such. So one of the most memorable segments was the "Please, please, please get a light foundation," where a neckbeard at his desk speaking a monotone with like a robotic arm being the sub and
with
talking about
with the ponytail,
like mathematical inaccuracies in Yakko's universe and various like animation errors from previous episodes.
Yeah.
So now, of course, that the internet has exploded and that everyone has access to it, and of course, none of you are actually meeting your fans in person. And I wonder if you have any amusing tales about that.
Well, thank you. What you're referring to is we did an episode called the Please, Please, Please Get a Life Foundation, where it shows a fellow who's much like all of us, who's totally geeked out about cartoons and stuff, in front of the computer and saying things like, you know, "Dear Mr. Spielberg, in episode 6247 of Animaniacs, Yakko's pants were 2 shades lighter than normal. Was this a different dialogue in the ink, or was it the Times choice of blah, 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 blah?" Really, it's absurd questions. And then Yakko comes in and says, "Is this you? Do you have entirely too much time on your hands? You know, you watch way too many cartoons and being on the computer all day long, then you need to join the Please, Please, Please Get a Life Foundation." And so the interesting story about that is that we were clearly lampooning people who were essentially buttering our bread, you know, and I know that, and that's great, but it was all in good fun, and the people, there were a group of 10 or so folks who came from all around, and Stephen wanted to give everybody a tour of the studio, and they were all the people whom we lampooned in that episode, and we're very grateful to sort of be made fun of and hopefully not in an offensive way.
Just a quick follow-up. When you say that they were like buttering your bread, one of the things I've heard, I mean, probably no better, is that problems in later seasons that advertisers were sort of vexed with its success among people older than the target audience. That the cartoon was supposed to be for children.
Well, it was supposed
But
to be.
advertisers are saying that the numbers are high, but
Yeah.
we're not like few enough of those are children that it's not worth paying for the kind of numbers.
Right, well, it's an interesting thing that you said. It was, as far as I recall, at the beginning, it was clear that it was not supposed to be a show that was just going to condescend to the audience.
Yeah, we're talking Japanese. Like
Yeah, or, I mean, still, you can watch Rocky and Bullwinkle or Bugs Bunny or any of the Looney Tunes stuff or Fractured Fairy Tales now, 50 years later, shows that were hits when I was a kid. And they're still culturally relevant. They're very funny. Animaniacs is no different. It was not made just for kids. I don't know with respect to the technical terms in terms of the advertisers, but my God, we did 100 of them, and that's a good run for anybody unless you're the Simpsons, you know. It was absolutely made for what is happening now, and that is to say that folks like Zach, folks like people who are here who are younger, that were not around when Animaniacs was made, can watch it now and still enjoy the show. The music is timeless. I mean, Randy Miguel and Isn't He Something, and Rich and Julie Bernstein, and Rich Stone, Steve and Julie Bernstein, incredible skill on both sides of the glass. But in terms of the song you were talking about, that was a little song. What's your name again, sir?
Paul. The songs are so good.
That's okay. Paul was suggesting about a song that we did called Yakko's Universe, where he says, let's see. Everybody lives on a street in a city or a village or a town for what it's worth. And we're all inside a country which is part of a continent that sits upon a planet known as Earth. And the Earth is a ball full of oceans and some mountains which is out there spinning silently in space. And living on that Earth are the plants and the animals and also the entire human race. Well, it's a great big universe and we're all really puny. We're just tiny little specks about the size of Mickey Rooney. You may think that you're essential, try and consequential. It's a big universe and it's ours. Randy Rodell, boy, he nailed that one and a bunch of other ones. And the original ending to that, as I just sang it, was supposed to be, you may think that you're essential. Or no, the way it ends now, I think it goes, it's big and black and inky, or no, though we don't know how we got here, we're an important part here, it's a big universe and it's ours. But the way it was originally written was, you may think that you're essential, try inconsequential. It's a small world after all. And Mr. Spielberg said, no. I got too many buddies over at Disney that would have fun with that. So, yeah, it was an incredible labor of love. And now, the opportunity to come and meet people like this is so incredibly gratifying because it's clear that it's had a really positive impact. And it's great fun. Thank you very much, Paul. Yes, sir.
My name's Dungy.
Dougie?
Dungy.
Dungy?
Yeah.
Cool, like Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
For one, I love Buck the Night in Squishington is probably like
Thank you very much. If you ever find yourself under the toilet, sorry. You don't need to answer that. Maybe after some really heavy party.
maybe. But that's like my family's favorite character ever. So
very much.
It's a pleasure to meet you and talk like this. But last night you mentioned that you have an affinity for music as well.
Oh yeah, I was a singer before I was anything in terms of being a performer. I started my career as a singer.
And you did mention a bit on the side of rock.
Oh yeah.
What would be your favorite classical, as well as, say, either modern or just rock-ish type of music for you?
Well, my heroes, Billy West and I say the same thing, and I actually stole it from him, but my heroes as a kid always were artists, whether they're rock artists or classic music artists or painters or authors. I'm always impressed and inspired by people who are the best at what they do. Sets the bar really high for the rest of us. The same with athletes. I mean, growing up in Detroit, my hero has always been Gordie Howe, and he still is my hero. And I've had the good fortune of meeting and spending time with him, and he sets the bar very high in terms of the way he comports himself. But in terms of performers, man, I just bought the last 5-year-old DVD and album of the latest Led Zeppelin record. These guys, when they did it, were in their 60s. Yeah. They're still in their 60s, but they were like 61, 62, now they're in their late 60s. And they absolutely lit it up. And for me to watch that and see guys that are 10 years and change older than I am, that can still bring it, was very exciting. The same thing with David Gilmour. David Gilmour sounds as good at 67 years, Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck is ridiculous. He's almost 70 years old. Stones just released a new record. So, you know, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Jethro Tull, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, yes. Pink Floyd, the Beatles, of course, Stones, all those guys, Genesis, Peter Gabriel, great artists that I enjoyed. I also enjoyed Kenny Loggins and James Taylor and the Eagles. Don Henley's voice is second to none in terms of his soulfulness. But being in Detroit, same thing. Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, The Supremes, Stevie. I mean, how can you? They're all inspirational and they're all relevant for Aretha. Oh yeah. I was when the year I happened to win my Emmy, we did it at it was at the Madison Square Garden in New York, and the musical guest for the Emmy broadcast there was Aretha Franklin, and it was overwhelming to hear Aretha live. Overwhelming. And you understand, I did it because of Animaniacs, I worked with Bernadette Peters a lot, and you understand why there are good singers and then there are stars. And Bernadette Peters is a star for many reasons, not the least of which is her incredible skill, but she just has it that you can't teach. So, yeah, all those people were very inspirational to me. And then in terms of modern, so up-to-date sort of talent, I really like Vampire Weekend. I really like My Chemical Romance, although those guys are a few years old. I like, oh God, the guys that just won for I Will Wait for
Mumford.
Yeah, great stuff. Mumford's. I still have to say that when I sit back and listen to music, I've been playing this whole weekend, I've been listening to Led Zeppelin. Very nice. On my car on XM Satellite, I listen to the Frank Sinatra channel all the time, because those people are my heroes too. You know, Johnny Mercer, the Gershwins, Frank, Tony Bennett is 85 years old, and he's still absolutely freaking brilliant. And Bobby Darin, these guys are just great, incredible singers.
You're just as timeless with your voice acting.
Thank you, my friend. That's very sweet of you. Hey there. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm breathing and I'm not in jail, but the day's not over yet.
No, it's not. But yesterday you were talking about your experiences with your peers in the voice acting world and doing your work, and you mentioned a bit about them today. I was wondering what your favorite encounters with quote-unquote celebrity talent are. Celebrities outsider.
Yeah, I've had several, and again, I mean, I have to say that celebrities in general, I was fortunate enough, as I mentioned, I played hockey virtually until a couple of years ago. But one of the great experiences I had in my life as a performer was getting a chance to play on a team with a bunch of actors, and you get to go around playing the old timers of National Hockey League teams to raise money for charities. And you know, in LA, they were like, "Wow, dude, you're a Ninja Turtle, and you know, and you skate backwards." So we want to play on our team? Yeah, are you kidding me? So the first game that we got to play was against the Calgary Flame Old Timers, and I was on the ice with Jim Kuklinski and Lanny McDonald. So I get a call a couple weeks after we got done, and I pick up the phone and says, "Rob Paulsen, please." He said, "Hi, this is he." "Hey, Rob, Lanny McDonald." And I said, "Hi, Lanny. Yeah, listen, it's my kid's 12th birthday, and he loves turtles. Hey, would you mind talking to all the boys at the turtle party?" And I go, "Oh, no problem." So those happen an awful lot. And of course, the ultimate thing for me is to have gotten to know Gordy and Colleen Howe very well. As a matter of fact, the first phone call I got in LA when I got back home at 5 o'clock in the morning was from Colleen Howe, saying, "My God, Gordy, I'm watching you on TV." I mean, that's for a kid like me, to have any association with Mr. and Mrs. Hockey is pretty outstanding. In terms of LA, you know, Brad Garrett is one of my best friends from Everybody Loves Raymond. He calls himself the largest Jew in captivity. He is one of my dearest friends. Jason Priestley, Matt Perry are all good friends of mine from hockey and from work. Luke Perry, as a matter of fact, came and did a bunch of cartoons. We became good pals. You know, there are just so many lovely people out there who've been kind enough to be kind to me. The encounters I've had were the most memorable. I recall on the Animaniacs launch party on the Warner Brothers lot almost 20 years ago. This is why we're talking about how some people are stars. And when I've had the good fortune of working with certain people who are at the top of their game, and they're lovely and wonderful people who would talk to all of us, if they had the time. They're just lovely people. One of them is Steven Spielberg. And I recall having worked with him on a couple of projects, and obviously on Animaniacs. And this is why those people, this story is an example of why those people are special. He walked up to me, and I'm sure somebody said, okay, this is Paulsen. And he said, okay. Meeting hundreds of people. He walked up to me and he said, Rob, great job. We love Pinky and Yakko's great. And oh my God, we're so happy with this and all this other stuff. And I said, thank you very much, Stephen. My son was with me. He was 8 at the time. And I remember that Stephen, before I could get the words out of my mouth, looked at me and said, is this your son? And I said, it is. He said, do you mind if we get a picture together? Now, how classy is that? It does two things. It completely takes the onus off my shoulders to ask. And it's a story that I've probably told 100 times. And so when I run into people who don't have that, who are short and unapproachable and got an ego and all that, I just don't have time for it. I don't suffer fools well anymore because I've had the good fortune of hanging out with Gordie Howe. And, I'm in the witness protection program. So tell them I'm not here. It's not really me. No, so when I run into people, and I've had the good fortune of meeting people like that, or Clarence Clemens, I got to spend some time with Clarence Clemens. He was our honorary coach at a hockey game in Rochester, New York. We played the Rochester American alumni. And you get to hang out with people like this. It's not like you bowl with them, but when you've had the good fortune of getting to know them, it just means that when somebody isn't like that, I don't have any time for that. So I have had great. Christian Slater came in and did a couple episodes of Jimmy Neutron. Could not have been nicer. Roseanne Barr was just in on Ninja Turtles. It was great. Yeah, so it's and the guys I work with on Turtles. I mean, the new Raphael is Sean Astin. You guys all know Samwise, right?
And you worked with his dad.
And John, his father. And when I was a kid, The Addams Family was one of my favorite shows. And so I did 2 shows with John Astin. I did Tasmania and The Addams Family, which of course he played Gomez. So now I get to work with his boy, who is just as nice as you can imagine. And Jason Biggs from the American Pie movies is just the sweetest kid. And we have a ball together. So I'm incredibly fortunate. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir. Hi.
Hi. Okay, first off, personally like to welcome you to Canada.
It is my pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Okay, to be here. And by the way, I got through customs really fast. Thanks for making a call.
All right, so anyway, I'm just truly impressed with how diverse work you do.
Thank you.
Like,
I have to. I got to make a living.
yeah, well, and personally speaking, as a gamer, I loved you the most as Gray Fox.
Oh my God! It's funny you say that because my son said the same thing. One day he came home from, was still in college, and he was almost put off, and he said, "Hey man, I need to talk to you about something." I said, "What? Are you okay? Is somebody pregnant or what?" Typical father response, and he said, "No, dude, you didn't tell me that you were Gray Fox on Metal Gear or whatever it is." And well, I don't give you a breakdown of every job I've ever done, man. All I know is I paid your goddamn braces. So. Don't give me crap.
Colonel, that's Gray Fox.
And he said, no, that's just unbelievable that my dad is Gray Fox. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And it's not because I'm arrogant, it's because I'm lucky enough to be busy, and I may do something that doesn't come out till a year later, and sometimes a video game is a hit for like a year and a half later, or it takes a while to filter out. Or, there was somebody else who did it before me, and yeah, I've had a lot of people who said that's the ninja guy.
Yes.
Snake. That guy.
Yes.
Yeah. All I did was whisper, Snake. I guess fight and die or do something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually fighting in that game with the guy who was Leonardo in Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, he was great.
Oh, he's Snake. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And my question is, truly, what truly inspires you to come up with each character's voice?
That's a great question. What is your name, sir?
Gordon.
Gordon. What inspires me, I think, is a desire to it sounds really trite, but it's true. What I'm inspired by is the desire to do the best job I can always do. Having done enough of it now to where I know that if I satisfy myself, that is to say, if I make myself laugh, or cry, or do a character that is uncomfortable, that I would find disturbing, that the audience will probably too. So that when an audience member such as yourself years later comes up and says, I love this show, or this freaked me out, man, this was weird. I'm used to hearing you singing all these happy songs, and I saw you in Batman, Return of the Dark Knight, or whatever. Dude, it was weird. That's good. That's what I want. Obviously, that's what the effect I'm trying to achieve. And the other thing that inspires me is the people with whom I work are so good at what they do that you can't help but be inspired. Whether it's Bruce Timm or Paul Dini writing stuff, or producing stuff, or Billy West, or Maurice, or Tom Kenny, they're very inspirational performers. And so the bar is raised so that you're trying to always do your best work. So I'm lucky I get paid to be around people who inspire me. I'm a very fortunate fellow. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. And be sure to say hello to Tara Strong and Mae Whitman and all the other great ones.
I've had them on my podcast, and they're just as delightful in real life. That'll be beautiful. They are beautiful girls.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Gordon. Appreciate it, buddy. Hi, hon. Look at all those quivers full there.
Yes.
Bitchin'. You don't get through customs with that, I promise you. Yeah.
So Pinky and the Brain was my favorite.
Oh, Tom, you have good
I
taste.
have to ask Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
What's your name?
Crystal.
Crystal, ask me again.
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Well, I think so, Crystal, but burlap chafes me so.
Isn't that great? I can come all the way from, these fellows folks behind the stage are laughing. I can come all the way here to my friends up in the Great White Glare, and all I have to do is say, Narf! And you do that. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Hi.
Hello, my name is Zach.
Hi, Zach. Oh my God. This is, wow, what an incredible experience. Two Zachs in the same room.
I know, you have
Dude.
well, first thank you for the Ninja Turtles.
Thank you, man. Have you the new Turtles?
All of them? I
Yeah.
all of them.
I do too, and I have to say one of the cool things again about having my son, who's 28, he's kind of in, the same ballpark. It was great fun for me as a dad,
Guys,
obviously, to have a
you
little
kinda-
boy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just kind of
But what's
shift off to
really
this side
gratifying
of
now
the
is that my
Thank
son called me a couple of weeks ago, and he'd been watching the new Turtles on Hulu. And he said, you know what, I gotta tell you, man, I didn't want to like this show, but it's great.
Yeah.
And it is. The new Turtles is quite I'm incredibly thrilled to be part of it.
I was
Thank you.
surprised because they generally go into town.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I think they did a hell of a good job. Yeah.
Anyway, my question is, you've done a lot of different kinds of voice acting, like games, main characters, reoccurring characters, bit pieces. What is your favorite kind? Do you like being a main character?
Oh yeah, it's a steady job.
Yeah, I figured, but I didn't know if what kind of challenges that comes
Yeah,
with
well,
versus the other guys.
No, I appreciate what you're asking. What's kind of cute sometimes is folks will text me or ask me in one of these forums, they'll say, was it really fun working on Ninja Turtles for 8 years? Well, and I want to say, what about that wouldn't be? I mean,
exactly.
if you're not taking any medication, and you ask that question, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know? But I understand you. I'm just fooling.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's interesting actually. It's a good question because on the one hand, when you're able to be a main character in the context of a hit show, it's great because you have not only the ability to work steadily, but you get a chance to work with people and developing other characters. I mean, Maurice and I are like brothers, and every time we get together and do an evening with Pinky and the Brain at some theater around town or whatever, the place is full. People love it. We have a great time. We call each other and come up with all these bizarre non sequiturs.
I think so, Frank, but if Jan Hooks and Britney Spears is Marvin Gaye.
So yeah, it's always great to be part of a hit show as a regular for logical reasons and for personal reasons. However, what's also really fun is I do a show called Fairly Odd Parents, and I have this recurring guy named Mark Chan, who is this guy from Yugopatamia who's in love with Viking. And with this one-off character that Butch Hartman called before, which turned out probably done 25 or 30 episodes. So it's really neat when you have one of the questions that earlier was about the challenges and what inspires you and all that. Well, when you have a one-off character that turns out to be shows up over and over again, that's a really cool thing. So now I have this secondary or sometimes tertiary characters that I can go or like Swishington, who's a regular on Bump of the Night, but the show hasn't been on for 20 years. Or I do Mark Chang maybe once or twice a year, and people love that character. And so that also is really fun. So it's a great compliment to me when not only do I get that job, but people remember a character that was supposed to only be a one-off. And you can make the argument that I and the people who, because I'm just a part of the show, I can't draw the characters, but that it worked well enough so that it was recurring characters. So it presents a fun challenge either way.
Can I ask one quick?
Sure.
The other question I was going to ask is there any particular people that inspire you, or that you call up for ideas when you're stuck on an idea?
I don't really ever. Well, as I said earlier, it's not that I call somebody up, but I am surrounded by people who inspire me. I mean, I'm in a room with Billy West and Mae Whitman, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Frank Welker, and Jeff Bennett, and Dee Bradley Baker, and Tara. What's that?
That's a nice room.
Yeah! These people are all my good friends. That's why the podcast is successful. They're all on my cell phone. Mark Hamill, and they're all my buddies. And so when you're surrounded by people like that, just listening to them and being around them, and Billy and I have done panels together, and Elise and I have done panels, Jess Harnell and I have done panels, and Peter Cullen and all of us, we're just good friends, and I've known these guys for years, and so when you're surrounded by them, they inspire me. I steal from them. Thank you very much. Thank you, buddy. Hi.
Hi. Before I start,
I dig your ears.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Before I start, I just want to say that I saw you out here on the floor, and anytime you walk by me, I'm thinking, okay, don't say anything because you're going to ask me a question at the panel. You can get your herd back started. Okay?
Oh, yes. Well, you're welcome to. I promise you, I don't bite. I'm a total geek nerd fan, just like you guys. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm a fan of the medium, and I'm completely enamored by you guys. The fact that anybody pays attention to what I do is very sweet. So please, I'm one of you. I'm not special.
The funny thing is that I actually had to write down my question.
Oh dear.
When I got up here, it's like, I don't know what to say.
Oh, well,
so
you're doing pretty well.
I'm hoping that this
So far, so good.
anticlimactic. So you've been a voice for a lot of characters that have been a part of our childhood, and as we've progressed, you've inspired people to do things. And
Right.
You want to podcast, right?
Yeah.
And so do you feel that you have influenced our lives in some positive way, by maybe possibly shaped us into who we are today?
Well, not if you're, let's see, David Berkowitz. You guys don't know that. He was accused of mass murder. So I hate to think that I had any, I know Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't a fan. Well, that's a really lovely question. And first of all, the fact that you would allude to the fact that I had something to do with shaping somebody's, the good part of somebody's childhood or their adulthood it really is unquantifiable how sweet that is to say. I don't take it lightly. The fact that I do what I do, and I know, having worked in this medium for almost 30 years, that clearly there are millions of people who watch these shows. And I don't take it lightly when I meet someone like yourself, or the other Zach, or any of the folks here and around North America so far who have come up to me and said, you're the voice of my childhood. And virtually always it's a happy thing. And I should say, it is always a happy thing. Sometimes the circumstances are not happy when the people relate things to me, but they always end up happy. And what I mean by that is, I get people all the time who will come up to me and say, Mr. Paulsen or Rob, my brother had leukemia, and the only thing that got us through watching it was Ninja Turtles. Or I was bullied, and Ninja Turtles got me through that and taught me about, self-respect, that I got into martial arts. I'm okay, and now I watch Turtles, and it means way more to me than just an action figure. And I really, honest to God, I can't tell you how lovely that is to hear. I am incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to be part of your childhood. As a matter of fact, I'm writing a book right now, and the working title is, Dude, Your Childhood is a Middle-Aged White Guy.
Well, I'm only 22, so I don't feel middle-aged.
Well, no, not your childhood is me. I am firmly ensconced in middle age. Trust me. But the fact that you say that, I'm incredibly flattered. And when you say, do I think that I've had something to do with that? Well, I would be very arrogant or presumptive to assume that I did. But to the extent that people tell me that I have, I am beyond flattered by that. And I don't take it lightly. The opportunity now to go speak to a group of people, if I have 500 people, the truth is that I could have a fan base of 8 years old to 40. And that's like Barry Manilow. I mean, you got it without the schmaltz, hopefully. But you've got literally people who say, I watched Turtles when I was a kid, and now I watch them with my kid, and you're doing Turtles again, and I'm old enough to be almost everybody's father here. You're looking at all of us. Nice to see some people who are within 15 years of my range, except for your lovely wife, who's clearly out of your pay grade. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, mine is too, so. But I honestly, I really can't tell you how grateful I am to know that some people feel that way, and I don't take it lightly, and I'm very respectful of the fan base, I'm very respectful of the shows on which I work, and I know that Ninja Turtles, for instance, is very important to a lot of people for many more reasons than just ratings and action figures. So thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome.
Appreciate that. Take care, bud. Hi. You're already smiling.
I am.
It's not gas, is it?
So basically, my girlfriend's the one that really made me aware of, talent.
Smart girl.
Yes, sure. So, when I look up yourself and many of the names that were
Sure.
you look at your resume on IMDb, and just gigantic, huge. But my question was more relating to, it's a lot of focus on TV, video games. There is some, but not as much.
Right.
So, like there's, for example, like the Transformers, right? Peter Cullen is able to reprise his role by Frank Welker.
Yeah.
And specifically with Disney, you see a lot of celebrity
talent.
where they're talented, but they're not voice acting people. They're just they're blending their voices. So I was wondering if there's maybe any animosity towards Rob Williams for that.
Not from me. I get it. I'm a capitalist. This is, we have to make money. This is a for-profit business. I mean, surprise, these people are nice enough to bring me, but I'm getting paid to be here. Now, it's a labor of love, and trust me, I'm not going to get rich, but all of this is more remuneration than the actual dollar stuff that I get, okay? So it's my gig. I mean, I have to make a living. However, I also understand that if Disney says it's going to put butts in the seats to have Brad Pitt be the talking chicken in their movie, it's their money. They can do whatever they like. I have other friends of mine who are very resentful, and I understand that side of it too, because we worked really hard to do our gig, and trust me, we get paid very well, but we don't get paid movie star money. And I know that I've gone in and sung for celebrity talent who are making 10 times what I'm making for less work. But they become celebrities. Brad Pitt didn't know anybody when he went to LA. Good for him. And it'd be kind of cool to be incredibly good looking and incredibly famous and incredibly rich for a day. That'd be cool. But there are a lot of people who would like my career, so I'm incredibly fortunate too. The way that I look at celebrities that are brought in, that will never change because, John Hamm is, from
Mad Men.
Yeah, from Mad Men. Incredibly gifted actor, incredibly handsome, and is parlaying his work on screen into a lot of voice work. He's the voice of Mercedes-Benz. He's now the voice of American Airlines. I think he's the voice of Buffrin or Hannison or one of the, Tylenol, I think. And I know that I was for years the voice of Mr. Opportunity for Honda. They used to sell Hondas at the end of every model year, and I would be this internet guy. Well, when I was doing it, Kevin Spacey was the main voice for Honda. And I know that he's probably getting $700,000 or $800,000 a year for that. But he's Kevin Spacey. He won 2 Oscars. He didn't know anybody when he got started either. He's just a brilliant actor. My feeling is that those folks all earned what they got. If producers want to spend the money, just like, George Steinbrenner gave A-Rod $250 million to play baseball. He can't hit a baseball anymore. They'll probably do somewhere else. But hey man, that's what the market bore for Mr. Steinbrenner. My feeling is that I can only be as good as I can be. So that if a producer says, I really, 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 really want to spend $1 million to get actor A to play this character, all I can do is, if I get the chance to audition for it, is to be so good that the producer says, yeah, this guy's really good, but I just really want to spend the money. I can't help it. However, it has changed a bit in my favor and in our favor because I do a character named Bobo in all the Tinkerbell movies, in which I play, for some strange reason, a fellow with a Scottish accent. And I'm a Tinker Fairy, and I'm very comfortable with that. And initially, that was going to be cast by one of the fellows that was that played with Sean Astin in the Lord of the Rings movies and blah blah blah. And they wanted to add this guy, and they brought me in and said, "We'd love to hire this guy, but we can't understand him. So would you come in and read this thing, and we're going to still use him and pay him all this money, but we want you to do the scratch for him." And ultimately, after an opportunity for me to say, "Why would you do that? You got me here and Jeff Bennett and blah blah blah." Well, John Lasseter, God bless him, said, "These guys are perfect. Right? Let's hire these guys." So that was an opportunity where my doing my best work got me the job over the sort of quasi-celebrity, which I know is going to make a lot more money. So I did my gig better and I got the gig. It's never going to change that celebrities are going to get more money because of their celebrity. So I'm trying to cultivate my own work and get better and better and better and better. Luckily, I'm not limited by being an attitude. So I get to be hired for things I wouldn't be considered for. But I don't have any ambitions. It's just, it's showbiz. And I hope someday that I can cultivate a thing where they say, yeah, we just really want Roger to give him $1 million. But thank you very much. It's kind of you to ask. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, nerds. This is the best part of my gig.
Okay, so mine has been answered by like everybody. So I'm just going to say this. My brother has autism. He's 21 years old. I want to thank you for giving us fodder to annoy the crap out of my mother for years to come. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. And I have an autistic, a severely autistic. Interesting. He was diagnosed as severely autistic nephew, my oldest nephew. But now he's 21 and he's so high functioning. And I'm so proud of my sister and people like you and your mother. I understand how much love and commitment, patience it takes. Very well done. And when I see my nephew doing so well and having a job and living his life, it's incredibly moving. So thank you.
What's in my pocket?
What is in your pocket? I'm not sure.
No, I have
my last name isn't Kreskin, so I don't know.
I was going to ask you, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
There's one in every crowd. I think that I'd probably take the horse-sized duck because I'm pretty funny and I could make him crack up. How you doing, sir? Nice to see you again.
Hi, Tom. 2 quick questions. First, of all the TV shows that you've been in, which would you say has been the worst?
Worst?
Just in overall quality.
I did a show a few years ago. It's hard for me to say the worst because I'm very aware of how many people work on a show, and nobody starts out to make a bad movie or a bad show, and I've been in several. But it's not like anybody starts and spends all that money and all that time to make something that sucks. So it's difficult. It's difficult to say. It's difficult. What is the worst thing I've been in that you can think of? Is there anything? I've got a very thick skin, and I've already cashed the checks, so I don't care if this sucked. But
Land Before Time 12?
Yeah, some of those were pretty bad. Yeah, this is Land Before Time. Well, and the Turtles. I mean, I love the original Turtles. Being part describe it, but it is sort of one toward the end of the run. There were mistakes with which turtle was speaking, the wrong voice, the wrong guy. And I think those are even on the internet. You know, I mean, it's all your dirty laundry. So trust me, if you have any public persona at all, it all ends up on the internet. I did, oh God, yeah, that was pretty bad. I'm trying to think of there was some stuff. Oh, there was a show I worked on at Hanna-Barbera called Snorks, which was sort of a version of the Smurfs underwater, kind of. That was pretty bad. And I'm not being coy. I've been lucky enough to do enough work so that I can forget about the bad stuff. But I honestly, if you folks want to come up to me and say, Mr. Paulsen, you're a decent guy, you seem like you don't hurt people, but this really, Blue, I think is the director, sucked. It's awful. I don't know that kind of thing. But I'll think about that, and I'll try to come up with something. But thank you for asking.
Okay. Second is, my girlfriend really wanted to come to this panel and she couldn't make it. Could you look to my camera there and say hi to her in Pinky's voice? Her name's
Is the
Jamie.
camera at the corner there?
Yes.
What is your name?
Jamie.
Jamie? Hey, you're Tom, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, Jamie, Tom is here. Even from this far away, I can smell cheap booze. Let me tell you, Tom, I completely understand why you sent him by himself. You must think he needs to get a better job of better booze. Clearly, he's not the right girl. But all I can say to you, and I mean this from the bottom of my pink little stupid heart, no.
Are there any voice actors that you've worked with of a younger generation that you feel you've been a mentor to?
Oh yeah, I think so. And they have actually taught me. One of which is Jason Marsden, whom I just spoke to the other day. He's incredibly talented fellow. Yeah, he's a great kid. It's really funny how it's funny to get to a place where you can call somebody who's 38 kid. 40 is a kid. So I tell people, people don't know this, but I was the entertainment at the Last Supper. Of course, in those days, I was Shecky of Arimathea. Walked in the line, Jesus, what a party. Everything was going great until Judas decided to do a karaoke version of Backstabber. Very tasteless. So, yeah, Jason Marsden, it's hard for me to be presumptuous because that would presume that they think I'm their mentor, but Jason has told me that. There are a couple of folks. Oh, Yuri Lowenthal, whom I adore, and his adorable wife, Tara Platt. Yuri and Tara wrote a book called Voiceover Voice Actor, which if you're interested, you should get it. It's very good. But Yuri is he's Ben on Ben 10. And I work with Yuri a lot, and he's incredibly talented, very handsome young fellow. And he has told me that I kind of help him along. I have a number of students, private students, who told me several of whom are in Vancouver. I have students in Holland, Vancouver, Australia, all over the U.S., and they've also said the same. So if that is true, I'm incredibly grateful. It's a very precious thing to trust somebody with your talent, so thank you for asking. Appreciate it.
Hey, God, look at your ears! I know you're not supposed to be me, but you are quite attractive, I must tell you.
First of all, great, really great to meet you.
Thank you, sweetie.
I'm a huge fan of animation, and just the production behind it. I wanted to ask...
Are you an artist?
Obvious.
Good, well, because I can't even draw stick figures, so that's cool.
I did want to ask, when it comes to coming from an artist point of view, when we're designing a character, we often have the voice or the perspective of what the voice was like in our head.
You do, okay.
Despite, not being able to mimic it.
Right.
Have you ever had animators, try to coordinate with you, like, what they picture?
Yes. And what's your name?
Chris.
Chris, yes, Chris, and thank you for asking. I have often do that. One of my best buddies in LA is a guy named Doug Tanaple. And Doug did a show for which he got a lot of acclaim years ago called Earthworm Jim. Doug hired me to do a show at Nickelodeon years ago called Cat Scratch. And it was only on for a season. It was a great cast. It was Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall. It was me. It was Maurice LaMarche, another Canadian from Timmins, Ontario there. And Wayne Knight, who played Newman, right, on the Seinfeld. And Doug and I are good friends, and we've talked several times at dinner about what he wanted my character and other characters to sound like. And often it helps animators to have guys like me, Maurice, or Frank, or Dee, or any of these guys come in and throw stuff out at them as they're producing a show. More often than not, we come in after the fact and we start reading for a bunch of people, and then they will decide, you know, we hear this a lot. We don't know what we want the character to sound like, but we'll know it when we hear it. Well, that's a tough game. You can either make it drive you crazy, or you can just start to throw up as much stuff as you can and see what happens. It worked really well with me and the animators in a show called Jimmy Neutron, because I was Carol Weezer. How weird is that? Seeing that come out of my head. I love your pink hair. That's a color found in nature, not usually on a human. But what's so great is that when that character came around, you know, you look at the sort of roundness of the character and the fact he's quiet guy. I did a different version of that character on Goof Troop, where I played PJ. And that was even more over the top in another show called Danny Phantom, where I played the Box Ghost. It's all kind of the same placement, except Carl's down here in quieter and has an inhaler. He's got a lazy L. So, yeah, we work very closely with the animators and kind of mix and match. It's really nice when I have a chance, when I know I already got the gig, and they say, we want you, what have you got? That's on a show I'm doing right now for the web called Bravo Man, which is being done by Namco Bandai, who did Pac-Man and some of the other video games. So if you go to shiftylook.com, S-H-I-F-T-Y, look.com, myself, D. Bradley Baker, who is Perry the Platypus on Phineas and Ferb, and also the two robots in the Portal. That's Dee, incredibly gifted actor. And also the clones in Clone Wars, and myself and Dee and Romy Dames, who was regular on Hannah Montana. The three of us are doing these voices in Bravo Man. So it's a web-based cartoon. It's pretty cool. And in that case, they hired me and said, we want to develop a character with you. It's always what you do.
So it was easier when they had already character design kind of presented to you and you were just asked.
Yeah, it's always nice. Well, I shouldn't say it's easier. It's the challenge, at least, is I don't have to worry about getting the job. It's like being on the roster every year for the next year on the team. You know, you got the gig. It's just a question of showing up at training camp and making sure you're in good shape. I don't have to worry about it. But it's always a fun challenge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Hello, other nurse.
Hi.
Hi. I like you.
Happy birthday to you.
Wow. All of a sudden, I just fall over.
My favorite thing that you did was at the very end of every Pinky and the Brain episode, you had that one line that throws Brain off.
Right. Oh, the non sequiturs.
Yeah.
Yes. Where Brain asks me, "Am I pondering?"
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to hear one? Another one. What is your name?
Autumn.
Autumn?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God. This is so sweet. So if you would say, Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? That'd be great.
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Well, I think so, Autumn, but if Jimmy cracks corner, nobody cares. Why does he keep doing it?
My question is, I spend a lot of time on DeviantArt as a freelance comic artist.
Great.
And I came across this one fan art of Animaniacs. It's basically a recreation of the world with the three characters.
Yeah.
But she inserted herself as another Animaniac character, and she's your girlfriend.
Oh, she is. How lovely.
I was wondering how you felt about that.
Are you kidding me? Any time that any lady with a pulse, as opposed to one without, finds me attractive in any iteration? Are you kidding me? I'm a very, I realize that, like I said, these folks are the folks that pay my mortgage. Anybody that finds me attractive, whether it's a cartoon character or a person, I'm always very flattered. It's a little bit on the odd side sometimes. But hey, you're looking at a guy who, makes my living doing what used to get me in trouble in 7th grade, so who am I to judge? I'm just really flattered that anybody finds any of my characters attractive. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. Hi. How you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good today.
Okay. So far, so good.
I was wondering in your long career if there were any missed opportunities for projects or particular roles that either you passed up voluntarily or you couldn't take as a schedule or whatever it was that. And then looking back in retrospect, you thought, I really wish I had gotten that, or I could have done something. I think I could have done something better than that they got.
Yeah, that's a good question.
My name's Ben.
Ben, thanks for asking. It's an interesting question, Ben. We were talking about this last night. The one role that I got really close on that I wish I had is Philip J. Fry in Futurama. But Billy West is like a brother to me, and they made the right choice. Billy's better. He was better than me in that role, and they made the right choice. And clearly you can't blame them, argue with them, because the show's, it's Futurama. So I wish I'd gotten that one because I got really close, but hey man, if I died 5 minutes from now, I have had a hell of a run. I'm a pretty lucky guy. But the other side of that is there are shows I passed up. Actually recently, Seth Green is a friend and incredibly gifted, and I love Robot Chicken. But there was an episode where they wanted the Animaniacs, they kind of lampooned the Animaniacs, which is great, and I totally get what it is about that show that people like. They like the irreverence, I totally get that. When they presented it to me and to Tress and to Jess, who were Yakko, Dot, and Wacko respectively, all of us chose to take a pass on it because it was kind of like, we're Animaniacs, we're busy smoking crack, we're going to kill ourselves and drive our car off a cliff. And I totally get that. I'm not a prude, I've been around, this is my first rodeo, all of that. But I also know that those characters like we were talking about earlier mean an awful lot to a lot of people. And I know that when I go around, that most people would say, hey, that was pretty funny, we get it. But there might be one person or two people who say, Yakko and Wacko and Doc really were important to me. And that kind of hit me the wrong way. Why did you have to do that? Was the $800 that important to you? And it wasn't that important to me. That is not to say that I wouldn't work on Robot Chicken. I just would not, sort of to coin a phrase, eat what I eat. You know what I mean? Yakko and Pinky, those characters are very important to me and consequently to the people who have paid my mortgage. So I don't regret passing on that at all. The other side of it is I can't think of, there isn't much else that I've really passed on because I have to work. But if it's something really egregious, there are things that I look at and go, this isn't for me, I'll just take a pass, and I never regret that.
Well, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to do a box ghost, but since you already did.
Well, I already did it, man!
Yeah. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what Charlie's like.
Oh, he's a complete asshole.
I suspected.
No, Butch is great. I was with him on Thursday. I did another show of his called Tough Puppy. And I love Butch. He's another Detroit. He's from Detroit. Butch is wonderful. He's hired me for 10 years on Fairly Odd Parents. He hired me for Danny Phantom. He hired me for Tough Puppy. We worked together. I first met him in Hanna-Barbera. He did a short that he hired me for called Gramps, which was his start. And he and Seth MacFarlane started at the same time. So they're very good buddies. Butch, he's really kind, great guy. You'd love him. You've probably seen him one of these. He's a great guy. Thank you.
Hi. This is good. Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Jack.
Hi, Jack. Don't say that on a plane. Look at it. You'll get that later. And you'll.
Yeah. First, I want to thank you and Animaniacs because now I know all the presidents of the United States, the state capitals, etc.
Well, I don't know all the prime ministers, so I'm sorry.
One of the most favorite things about Animaniacs is the obscure references to things that are in there. Like I mentioned, Bergman's The Seventh Seal, which I thought was really.
How hip is that?
Yeah, I'm like, when I saw that, I had to see that movie. So, but let me just get to the point. Were there any references you really loved on that show, and can you give any examples?
Well, there were many. The one that's the most obvious that kind of got by the censors is the fingerprints. Of course, it depends on which syllable you put the emphasis on. And so many were fingerprints. So that was one. There are just so many. I mean, pianists, when they had Kenny Mars played Beethoven and Bach, or was it Beethoven, I think? He said, I'm a pianist. I said, pianist? You can't say that. Not everybody
No, that was, yeah, that was very, there were a lot of, but thank you for asking, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think, unfortunately, Zach, I think this is going to be the last question for this young lady. The only reason I say that is because there's one more thing I want to do after this sweet lady asks a question, okay? But thank you, Zach. Sorry, guys. You go ahead. It's only because we're running out of time. I wish I could do an hour and a half, but we have to make room for the next folks. But I promise it'll be worth your while. What is your name?
I'm Cody, and I was just wondering, if you could be on any Japanese anime show, which one would it be and who would you play?
I would love to answer that question, but I'm not as hip as you. And I don't know them. The only reason is because I'm not that familiar with anime, because most of the anime that's been done up to this point, it's changing a bit, but most of them are non-union jobs. That's not bad. It's just that I'm in the Screen Actors Guild, and I can only do jobs that are authorized, for me to do so. I know that my son really loves, or used to really dig, Full Metal Alchemist, and one of his favorite movies was Ghost in the Shell. Loves Ghost in the Shell. And he was a big fan of Ranma. He loved Ranma. I know that right now Yuri Lowenthal works on a show called oh God, I can't remember. It's a very popular Japanese show. He works on one called Bleach. I don't, which one would you think I'd be best on?
I don't know, I'm just wondering, if you could pick anyone that you know of, like from any generation, which one would it be?
Oh, you know what? I would have loved to have been, I had Steve Bloom on my podcast, and I would have liked to, he did a character, you guys know which one Steve Bloom did? Spike, that was the one. But that was, what was the name of the show?
Cowboy Bebop.
That's the one I would have chosen. The reason, honestly, I'd say that is because after I had Steve on, I went back and watched Cowboy Bebop, and I really dug that. And I'm not trying to be difficult. Most of the stuff I do is not anime, although I have incredible, clearly it's huge. But thank you for asking. So thank you, Buck, for being here. But wait, before you go, I know there are several people who want to hear this, and if you don't, please bear with me. And if you know the words, sing along. It's the Canadian national anthem. But first, we're going to try this.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, and still, Guatemala, Bolivia, Argentina, most of the Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey, and Greece, Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Scotland, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Mexico, Bahrain, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, Denmark, and Spain, India, and Burma, Afghanistan, Thailand, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Malaysia, the Bangladesh, Japan, Canada, Korea, Japan, Mongolia, Russia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Taiwan, Sri Lanka, New Zealand, Japan, New Zealand, Vietnam, Morocco, you can how did you read about Botswana? Mozambique, Sweden, and Namibia, Syria, Ghana. But wait, there's more. Running solo, now